Hello, receiving teachers, receiving students, and Sevenese.
Hello, Miss Lee.
Thank you. You may be seated. I'd like you to open to a clean page. You have 2 recapping exercises to do before we go on to our lesson topic for today. I will ask you to complete these 2 recapping exercises in your groups because on your respective tables I have placed flashcards. So when it comes to correction, those particular students are going to come up and put your working out on the whiteboard. So before we do that, you will have to work in groups and try to do your own working out first to see where does your flashcard comes in when you're putting your flashcard on the board. So from the screen now you have your 2 recapping exercises basing on our previous lesson. A, negative 315 divided by 1.5. B, negative 0.28 divided by negative 0.4. You are given 5 minutes to complete those 2 exercises quickly in your own groups. Follow the steps that you were taught on from your previous lesson. Discuss within your own groups. You should now be working on exercise number 1B. refer back to your rules. Always remember, when we are dividing by decimals, change the divisor into a whole number depending on the number of places after the decimal point.
I will ask you to place the flashcard. Where does it come under? So there is one step ahead of this and then this one. So they will place this first and then you will go and place yours.
Okay, we should be finishing by now. Shall we go through the correction to those two exercises? 7 is? Are we finished? I've asked you to do that as a group so that you discuss. Vaguely, have you finished? Yes? To the receiving teacher, we will now go through the correction to those two exercises. Here we'll be seeing the grade 7E students. They will be coming up and placing their working out on the board. It's prepared on the flashcards. They will show to us which of the steps have they followed, and doing so they will place their working out on the whiteboard. So we'll now go on to the first recapping exercise. Okay, 7 is those students who are holding on to the flashcard. We will go through the answers to, or the working out to the first exercise, A. So the groups at the back, you have the working out to the recapping exercise A. So I would like you to come up with your flashcard and place your flashcard in order. What is the first step that you will take when you are doing your actual calculation? Look at your flashcard. Quickly come up now and place your flashcard on the board. Exercise 1A. Remember to put your calculation at the right place. Is that all? Okay, we will go through the answers together just to help our other friends if they're still confused on how to divide decimals. Here on the board now we have the calculation to those two recapping exercises. I hope we are now looking at the whiteboard so that we go through the answers together. Some students are still talking at the back. Exercise 1A. We have negative 315 divided by 1.5. The rule says always change the divisor to a whole number, depending on the number of places after the decimal point from the divisor. Here we have one number after the decimal point. So we are to multiply this divisor by 10. This is the second step that we will take or do when we are doing this calculation. When we multiply the divisor by 10, the same number that you used to multiply the divisor with, for example here in this case it is 10, must apply to the first number also. 315 must be multiplied by 10 also. Are we following 7 is? Don't forget that it doesn't mean that you multiply this by 10 and you use another number to multiply with this. So 1.5 times 10, 315 times 10. Here in this case, we are trying to change this decimal number or the divisor into a whole number. So we multiply this by 10, your answer should be 3,150 divided by 15. Okay, looking at this, you have a negative sign and a positive sign. That's from the start, it shows there. So different sign, your result would be negative. So I have the sign there. When we divide 3,150 by 15, you should have your answer or your final answer, negative 210. That is the calculation to the first exercise. Exercise 1B, negative 0.28 divided by negative 4. We multiply by 10 because there are how many numbers after the decimal point? 1. So 0.28 times 10 divided by 0.4 times 10. That is the second step to take. Then you should have your third calculation shown. From the flex card, it is negative 2.8 divided by negative 4. Negative and a negative, what is your result? Positive. When we divide 2.8 divided by 4, you should have your final answer as 0.7. So this is just to remind us again on the different steps to take when we are calculating decimal numbers. We will now move on to our lesson topic for today, which is combined operations. Okay, when you see such a topic, you think of the different operations that we normally use. What are they? Sevenis, can you tell me the 4 operations that we normally use in mathematics? Who can give me one? Shannon? To the receiving teacher, you can ask your students also to at least give you answers on the different operations that we use when we are dealing with maths.
Multiplication.
Okay, very good. One is multiplication. Ruben, can you give me another one?
Addition.
Okay, addition, very good. Nancy?
Subtraction.
Okay, very good. We have multiplication, addition, subtraction, and let's have the last one, Michaeline.
Division.
Okay, very good. Those are the different operations that we normally use when we are dealing with maths. Multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. So that is why we have the topic as combined operation. Okay, looking up on the screen now, we have the steps on how to calculate maths problems when we are combining all those 4 operations. So 7 is, we should now be looking at what is prepared on the PowerPoint. Order of operation. When we are dealing with maths problems that have a lot of, or the 4 different operations in the problem, the first step to take, having in mind we work from left to right. Step number 1 that we are to take or follow. We work within the grouping symbols first. Grouping symbols such as this three different symbols that are shown now on the PowerPoint. You will see numbers written inside either this grouping symbol, this one, or even in this one here, the bracket that is at the end here. So these three can be called as the grouping symbols or apparatus, or the proper name for these symbols. But in maths, we will use it as grouping symbols. Numbers are grouped and they are put into these symbols here. That is the first step to take. Step number 2, when you are calculating those mixed problems with the different operations, powers such as x to the power of a, that will be the next. When you see numbers, here I've used pronumerals. It can be 3 to the power of 2, that's what it means. That will be the next step to take. You deal with the numbers that have this type of problems in them. The third step to take now, you multiply or divide as it occurs, left to right. The next step to take, when you have dealt with this, you either multiply or divide. And the last step that you will do now is you finally add or subtract as it occurs, left to right. And I have the signs there, you add or you subtract. Those are the 4 steps that we will be using in our lesson for today. Okay, on the board or from the screen, I have one learning activity that we are going to do together. If we can still remember the rules, I have also prepared the rules on the chart. So as we go along with the learning activity, I will be asking you on the steps that we are going to be using. So you can always refer to the chart and tell me which step am I going to take. Okay, from the PowerPoint I have calculate 58, subtract. In this grouping symbol I have 2 times -8 plus 3 to the power of 2. What is the first step that I will take? Quickly, 7is, you have the steps on the
Write the
board.
question.
Write the question. Okay, I've already written my question from this PowerPoint. It's already there. Yes, if you haven't written the question down, that is what we are going to do. Write the question or the problem down. What would be the next step? Shannon.
Working inside grouping symbol, simplify the square term.
Okay, we work inside the grouping symbol. So this is what you should be doing when you're coming across such an activity. Okay, Bagley told us we will write the question down. Shannon just presented to us we are to work with the numbers inside the grouping symbol. Here we have the numbers shown there. We have 2 times -8, which is -16. Be reminded, the number that is also inside the grouping symbol is there, that comes in step number 2. 3 to the power of 2. So we multiply 3 how many times? How many times? 2 times. 3 times 3, which is 9. Now we have dealt with the numbers inside the grouping symbol. It is still inside the grouping symbol because we have the operational sign outside here. This one here, it tells us the sign, the directed sign that should be coming out from these two numbers here when we multiply. We have finished with multiplication here. Now we either add or subtract. We will deal with the numbers inside the bracket. Negative 16 plus 9. What would be the answer to that? You've learned this with Mr. Dumo in your previous lesson. Bagley, what are we going to do? What were you, or what is the rule that you will be using when you come across such a problem?
Change the addition sign to subtraction.
Okay, change the addition sign to subtraction, or you add its opposite. Okay, let's have a look to see what would be the calculation to that. Okay, we will still bring 58 down with this operational sign. Negative 16 plus 9 would be negative 7. You were taught on this, negative 16 plus 9 can be written as, adding its opposite, it would be 16 minus 9 would be 7, and you get the sign of the bigger number, which is 16. That's how we can get our answer. Same sign, what would be the operational sign that will go in here? Positive. So 58 plus 7, what would be your answer now? Positive 65. Very good. That is the steps on how to calculate such a problem like this. There are some easy ones that you'll be going through today in your lesson. Okay, in your groups, I'd like you to quickly calculate the answers to these two problems. 6 plus 3 times negative 4. B. Negative 4 subtract 4 plus, in bracket I've prepared 3 to the power of 2. You have the same example in your student workbook. You can refer back to that. Work as a group and discuss your answers to those two learning activities. You have your student worksheet book in front of you. Refer back to the steps and methods on how to calculate problems like the two that I have prepared on the PowerPoint. Refer back to the rule that we have on the chart. If you are not sure on what to do not hesitate to ask. Okay, just to guide you along, the first exercise you can see that I don't have a grouping symbol around any of those numbers. Going back to the rules, you try to figure out which of the numbers from the exercises with the correct symbols are you going to group, because you are going to deal with first, or you're going to calculate first. You should now be working on exercise number B, or letter B.
As your rule says, that rule, if you don't have the first one, the second one in your problem, you look at rule number 3. You multiply or divide as it occurs. So you are going to group this, because it's called multiplication sign. So you deal with this number first, put it down, bring this one down, add or subtract to get your final answer. Refer back to the formulas that are written. So in this case, it will be, what is the sign for this? So don't forget your sign. So you bring this 4, 6 ones go down. That's the 3. You deal with the multiplication first. Yes. Okay, there's no need for me to write it this way. You bring the 6 down. 6 plus 3 times negative 4 is, in bracket we have negative 12. Then we have 6 plus different signs, different signs it becomes 6, different signs it becomes different signs. What would be the final sign that we go into? Yes, what would be the sign that we go into? Negative. So 6 minus 12. You add its opposite, like what you have taught with Miss John for learn from Mr. Dumi. You add its opposite and get the sign of the beginning. So you can divide by 12 minus 6. And you have 6. Negative 12 is bigger from the start. So you get the sign of that number. So that's how we calculate this number. We'll go through together also. We try to exercise 2. You still don't understand. Okay, you have multiplication sign here. So which of these numbers are you going to group? From your rule number 3, you have 6 plus 3 times negative 4. Okay, you have 6 plus, you group this in your second, sorry. You group this because it's called a multiplication sign. This is, no, supposed to be 3 and I roll 6. Okay, you deal with the 1 with the multiplication sign. So you have 6 plus, in bracket, 3 times negative 4 would be positive or negative? Negative, because you have positive 3 times negative 4, so it's negative 12. Don't forget put it in the bracket because it comes out from this rule. Yes. The second one, the rule will apply in the second one. You apply the rule. Okay, you have different signs. You have 6 different sign. It becomes negative minus 12. And then you do your normal calculation. Is it going to be positive 6? Negative 6. Okay, you will learn from Mr. Dumo. You add its opposite. So you subtract that and you get the sign of the bigger number, which is negative 6. That's how you get your answer to all. Only lining things. Only lining things.
Okay, we should be finishing those 2 exercises by now.
How did you get negative 6? It's correct, but your calculation is not correct here. You have to group one, then you deal with one. Yes, I'm dealing with one group first. You see, you are correct, but why did you multiply this with this? Because this is a different sign altogether here. So you go. So you do.
Okay, we will go through the answers to this one because some students are still confused, so we are going to go through it together on the board. Be reminded when we are going through the steps, are we supposed to be talking and writing? No, some of us don't listen. That's why we don't catch up with the steps and the rules right on the spot. So make sure all the biros, books are faced in front of you, your biros down, while we go through the corrections together. Okay, all eyes on the board now. We shouldn't be talking, we should be looking up the front here. Okay, looking up the board, we have 6 plus 3 times negative 4. I've asked you to group this problem here. Because in this problem you have addition sign and also multiplication. Your rule number 3, that's the third step that you will take, but it will apply in this problem here. So we should be watching and seeing how it can be done. We bring this problem down again. Have this problem inside the grouping symbol because it is different from this sign. So 3 times negative 4 is grouped now so that it's easy for you to follow. Six plus positive 3 times negative 4. What would be your answer? Positive 3 times negative 4. Negative 12. Don't forget different signs, a negative result. Okay, remember that is the result or answer from this problem up here. We have the bracket outside it. Are we following 7 is? Okay, we have 6 plus negative 12. We bring the 6 down. Different signs. What would be my final sign that will go in here? Negative. Positive and a negative becomes a negative. 6 minus 12. Okay, in your previous lesson, you learned something on this type of problem. When you have a smaller number subtracting a bigger number, what do you do? What is the rule there? Can somebody tell us? Evelyn?
Give the sign of the bigger number.
Give the sign of the bigger number, or we can say add its opposite. We have 12 as our bigger number, subtract 6. The sign of the bigger number is negative 12. Negative 12 is bigger than 6. 12 minus 6 would be 6. And the sign would be negative 6 because we are getting it out from this bigger number. So that is the answer to this problem. You have exercise B that you will still complete. I would like you to complete that at your own time, but I will be still collecting your books for marking. The example, the same example that I have shown you or gone through with you is in your student workbook also. So I would like you to complete exercise B so that I check through that. Is that clear? 7 is? Okay, we will now go on to our summary points for our lesson for today. We have the summary points on the PowerPoint. Order of operation working from left to right. Point number 1, within the grouping symbols, first such as the following. It means you work within the grouping symbols first. That's what that point means. Point number 2, powers such as x to the power of a next. Okay, quickly write those 2 points down. Third point, then multiply or divide as it occurs, left to right, and those are the 2 operations that you will be using. The fourth point, and finally add or subtract as it occurs, left to right, you plus or subtract. Those are our summaries for our lesson for today. Our key phrase, combine operations, and we have the 4 operational signs that we have used in our lesson for today. Plus, subtraction, multiplication, and division. To the receiving teacher, our next lesson topic, check up on directed numbers. Materials needed, A4 papers, pen or pencil, rulers, and worksheet. Well, this has bring us to the end of our lesson. Thank you, receiving teachers, receiving students, and 7 East for your participation. Okay, thank you. You may be seated.